Here with us now is retired U.S. Marshal Art Roderick, who's also held senior roles at the Department of Justice and Department of Homeland Security. I'm so glad to have you on the show today, Art. Good to see you.
Thanks, Laura.
All right,
Thanks.
so
Good to see you.
yeah, what is your reaction to this plan? I mean, could data from the IRS be an important investigative tool? It sounds like it could be.
It absolutely is, and I'll tell you, I'm kind of surprised they haven't broached this this avenue of obtaining information earlier. I know back in my old days with the U.S. Marshals, we had agreements with IRS, with the Veterans Administration, with Social Security to be able to obtain that information through a court order because it is very, very good information. A lot of these locations are actually sending checks to the last known legitimate address of these individuals. So this is a great source of information. And probably what Tom is going to do, Tom Holman's going to start doing, is probably putting some of these individuals from these different agencies, whether it's IRS, whether it's Social Security, they have criminal investigators that can be part of these task forces. Huge information coming from that.
You know, the administration has said it's prioritizing people who pose a public safety threat,
Yes.
putting them into a category there. So that could indicate that they're planning to expand. Is that how you see it?
More than likely they are, but I'll tell you, they have done this in steps. And what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, we identified TDA as a criminal organization coming out of Venezuela with individuals coming up here, similar to what happened with the Jamaican organized crime groups, the posses in the 80s, and other groups that have come over here, MS-13. So we've identified them. Now they're classified as a terror group, which opens up all kinds of other avenues to be able to get information to locate and deport these individuals. So it's very key that all these steps are being followed. And we do know the Supreme Court has said that strictly that the federal government is in charge of all immigration. So this all kind of falls in line with each step that the administration has taken to get to this point.
The sanctuary cities are such a big part of this, right? President Trump sounded off on sanctuary cities at a meeting earlier today. It was really interesting. Let's watch.
They're guarding criminals. They're taking the rights away from the citizens of this state and their city. And we're going to be ending sanctuary cities if we find it necessary to do in certain major areas. And we may just end the entire thing altogether because it's just a way of protecting criminals. And nobody else is benefited by that.
So, I mean, man, changes could be coming, I guess. What options does the federal government have to push back on state and local jurisdictions as you see it?
Well, I think the biggest one is funding. I mean, we used to use funding both domestically and internationally if we wanted to get somebody back. So I think funding is the key here. And we've seen this administration use that also in the context of the protests that are going on, the anti-Israel protests that are going on in a lot of communities. So funding is a big hammer and can be used in a lot of these areas, and also whatever laws are out there to cover this stuff. But again, Supreme Court has come down on the side of the federal government every single time when it involves immigration issues, and I think you're going to see the same thing here as all these things work through the court process.
Well, we'll see how it all turns out. Art Roderick, thank you very much for joining us today. Always great to have you on the show and on NewsNation.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.